That'd be good.
A lot of things to ask.
All right, let's go.
So Sparta dropped into my consciousness like a brick.
Mhm.
I only just I was very late to at the drive-in. Um, Obviously the late 90s internet was still getting its feet in around
Yeah,
the world, and I remember seeing at the drive-in, like it was on Channel V, which is was our version of MTV back then, and
yeah.
seeing One Arm Scissor and just being going, oh, and then I found out that you guys had broken up, and I was like devastated. um, it's I find that Wiretap Scars, is was almost like a primal scream. So you've said that music is an outlet for anxiety and frustration. Was there a level of this when At the Drive-In ended and you put together Sparta?
It was the hands down the most fucked up period of my entire life at that age. Like having your band fall apart, having your friendships fall apart, sort of being like asked to lead this new band when you weren't. Didn't necessarily consider myself a frontman or a singer. So there was like a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of substance abuse that goes
Yeah,
along with being
yeah,
young and miserable. And so honestly, like yeah, it was one of the hardest points of my life, and I think that's why I had avoided the 10-year and the 15-year, and it wasn't until people started telling me about their experiences with the record that it kind of changed my mind. I wasn't of the mindset to go back to this time period at all. It
yeah,
wasn't something that seemed fun to me
yep,
until we started doing it, and then I realized that was the therapy, right? And I'm
yep,
better. Like I lived through it. So I keep saying this is like a victory lap for me.
yep,
What should have killed me didn't. And or what could have killed me, not should have killed me. What could have killed me didn't.
yep.
And here I am 20 plus years later. I'd like to say better than ever, but I'm doing all right, you
We're
know?
all a work in progress, right?
Oh fuck. Yes. Yes.
We're all a work in progress. So,
Yeah.
tw touching back on 20 years from that album, and I've listened to the 2022 self-titled as well. They could not be more polar opposites
Yeah.
from a feeling point of view. Um, I feel that the new one is a lot more, I guess, from a punk point of view than that sort of post hardcore sound that the first one had.
Sure. I think that one, there was a lot of different people influencing that record than this record, right? So I
Yep.
tend to almost write by myself at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and not for any reason other than that's just the way it worked out. I'm the only one that lives in El Paso. Obviously, the lineup has changed from
Yep.
the first record. My life has changed a lot. I think the expectations of what you think a band is supposed to be obviously evolves over time.
Yep.
And at some point, probably 10 years ago, I started just chasing the song, and I just don't care much about the other stuff, which
Yep.
to me is probably why I've sort of returned to sort of listening to a lot more sort of the stuff that I grew up on that I learned how to write songs to. I sort of have found myself crawling back in bed with the Subhumans and
Yep.
all the bands that I love. And I think specifically on the last record, on the self-titled record, there was a point where I was like only listening to Jawbox for a long time, where I was just
Yep.
like, I can't get enough Jawbox for
Yep.
whatever reason. And that was a band that when I was 15 was like the most important band in my life, was like Jawbox, Jawbreaker, Fugazi, all that sort of
Yep.
um intelligent, what I always think of as like intelligent punk rock stuff where there's a lot
Yep.
of thought going into it. It's not so much about pissing people off, which I've always been bored by.
Yep.
I'm way more into, so I think just chasing the song is sort of where I'm at. But it has been nice to go back and play these songs and remember who I was a little bit, because
Yeah.
I've left that guy alone for a long time, and it's kind of
Yep.
nice to go back and at least see him for a minute. I don't want to be him, and I sort of
Yep.
made that real clear when we started this. Is like, this will not be played exactly like the record was made. This will not have the same lineup. This will
Yep.
not be me dyeing my hair. Like I have no interest in being 27 fucking ever again.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy being 47. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
So that was all really important to me. And so when it was sort of pitched, I was like, yeah, I think I want to do it, but I want to do it as me now. I don't fucking ever want to go back to that.
And it's
That
nice
was
to
not.
have that
Yeah.
nice to show that evolution, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm very open about my scratches and my dents and
Yep,
all of the, like that's all part of being who I am. And I have no intent, like, I'm not into, fucking Photoshop and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm just
yep.
not, like, it's not me. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be
What's
real or
your
it's got to be nothing.
Yep. So just looking at the last, I guess, 4 years or so, I was looking at the 2020 to 2022 period, and it was quite prolific for yourself
Yeah.
and Sparta.
Yeah.
Um, you had the solo record Daggers,
Yep.
and also the most recent Sparta self-titled album. How much did the pandemic play into that prolificness, or are you just a naturally prolific person?
I think what it did is, so I write quite a bit anyways, or I fuck around quite a bit. I
Yep,
think what it did is it just kind of cleared the schedule more than
yep,
normal, which I miss actually quite a bit. And as I'm talking to you, I'm sitting in my office at my restaurant that I own, trying to figure
yep,
out how to make it run for 2 weeks while I'm on tour. And
yep,
it's it gives me like a lot of anxiety. I'm not excited about doing this right now. Like
yep,
I'm not excited. As soon as I get on the plane, I'm fine. And then unfortunately it's just everybody else's problem.
yep,
But during the pandemic, it was like the first time I felt free in a really long time. And I need to get back to that. Like I need to chase that feeling again because we sort of get so captivated with like work and I mean it's the same for everybody, right? Like we all have bills
mhm,
to pay, but I find there's a point where I'm now just creating chaos for myself for no reason, I think, and
yep,
I just want to go make records, and I don't
yep,
know why I don't just do that more. So I think what you'll see sort of in 2025 on is like that same period that happened from 20 to 22. Like
yep,
Wiretap has been a nice chance to like tour without having to do a lot of heavy lifting as
yep,
far as like writing goes or promoting a record or whatever. This is just kind of like a fun victory lap. Like I said, I think
yep,
we have some other surprises sort of planned for this year that will be fun if they happen. But in the meantime, like I'm making a record now. When
yep,
that record is done, I have so many things on the board, right, that
yep,
I haven't gotten to, and I do feel a sense of urgency and like like I said, I'm 47. I know I can't do this forever physically, so I kind of am starting to hit the like, oh shit, I want to just do this all the time until I can't,
hmm
and then I'll do something else, sort of feeling, you know?
yeah. I definitely understand because I am in your age group, so
Yeah,
I totally understand. So, um, but a topic I'm always interested in, which sort of leads in from what we've just spoken about, is when a person's in multiple acts. How do you know a song belongs to which act? So, which is a solo one, which is one for Sleeper Car, which is one for Sparta.
I think that there's almost like every group is a different element, almost like everything I
Yep.
do is a different element, right? So if you have a pot of water and you throw some oil in it, it's going to go where the oil sits, right? And if you
Yep.
throw some alcohol in it, it's going to sit where the alcohol sits. So I think everything kind of finds its way naturally, and I never feel like it's forced. There's definitely times like um, I wrote a song for Sleeper Car that I could never finish. I could never finish, and I sent it to
hmm
friends, and I couldn't figure it out. And it's on Trust the River. It's on a Sparta record because it just
Yep.
kind of popped out and was like, "Hey, I belong on this one." Oh, okay, shit. All right, cool. So
Yeah.
I
I'm
try
in
and
the
keep all
Sparta
these
family.
things,
Yeah.
yeah, and I keep everything sort of on a shelf in my
Yep.
minds, in hard drives nowadays. Like it's not tape anymore, but just like a bunch of hard drives and books and all this other, sort of stuff. And when I feel like I need to figure something out, I kind of go back to those things and look through them and see what's sort of fermented to the proper level, and then it'll jump out sometimes. Um,
Yep.
but I usually think the more I try to make something work, it fails pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I've
Trying
never
to.
been one of those writers. Like I can't. It's why I don't write well with. It's why I don't play in other people's bands.
Yep.
Honestly, is
Fair enough.
like unless I was filling in for fun, I would not typically be with other songwriters or in a band because it's just not as much fun for me.
Yep. But isn't it great now that we've got all of these storage options where we
Oh
can go
yeah,
back and sort of go, you know what? I remember that. I'm gonna go play with that for a bit because I think I can make that work over here now.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about the Australia flight is that I have 14 hours on a plane
Yep.
with nothing else to do, and
Yep.
I'll spend so much time on this flight going through the last like 6 months of ideas and see what I feel like spending my hotel time on while I'm
Yep.
there.
Yep. Fair enough. So Sparta has taken some naps, as you have called them, in
I
the
love naps.
past. Yeah, naps are fabulous. Um, is there, you've just said there's more music coming, so I guess maybe Sparta isn't going to take another nap.
I don't see it coming anytime soon.
Hmm.
Um, but then again, I never say never. So
Hmm.
yeah, I feel really good and productive and pretty like in the right space between happy and miserable that lets me write.
Yep.
So I feel like I'm in an okay spot for that. It's kind of just like always navigating the changing landscape of our
Hmm.
entertainment career, sort of whatever you call it. As soon as you sort of figure out how something works, it changes. It feels
Yes.
like. Um, so I sort of just go back to like, okay, I just want to make really good songs and then see what happens,
Hmm.
and not, you know, I try to not rely on music to pay all the bills because I don't want to have to do it, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Fair enough.
So I try really hard to do other things, like sort of in other parts of my life. One, it keeps you entertained and it gives you something to write about. If I just sit in a bus all day, I just
Hmm.
want to write about being in a bus all day, which is pretty boring.
Yes. Yeah.
As
So
like everybody's second record sounds like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah, the
everybody's
difficult
second record
second.
is like, oh, I tour all the time. Like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's
We
why
all
the
do.
second record's difficult, right?
Yeah, it's super hard.
Yeah. So 20 years on, I feel that Wiretap Scars sounds as fresh as anything that's going on at the moment.
Well, thank you.
Um, uh, you've you've actually touched already on how you feel about doing those songs and playing those today. So we'll kind of move on to the next thing that has me curious. And you may not even remember this because this was big day out. Um, Probably the last time at the drive-in played in Australia.
Yeah,
Um,
well, first and last time for that time period.
yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yes. Do you remember the Sydney gig?
Oh, it's like one of the most famous gigs of my
It
entire
is,
life.
right? It is,
So yeah,
right?
yeah.
I want to
I
applaud
remember it very
the
well.
fact, I actually want to applaud the fact that you stood up and said, everybody calm down.
Yeah,
Um,
it was our shtick. We weren't prepared for success. We weren't prepared for the masses. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's the hardest thing. And I love there's a new Blur documentary coming out,
Yes,
and
I've,
there's a quote in the trailer that says, success will fuck you up way more than failure will. And
yep.
it's so true, and we all know it, but we all kind of go through the same things. Like we weren't prepared to handle that, and we came from a very isolated place where we weren't around a lot of bands that were older
Hmm.
than us or bigger than us. We kind of came out of a scene where, we didn't have those mentors.
Yep.
So the only thing we knew how to do was protect sort of the kids in the front that were there to see us, and
Yeah.
we tried. We tried really hard, and we got it's pretty well documented, but we got very chewed out by the promoters afterwards, very chewed out, standing in our dressing room yelling at us. I was
Mm,
totally like, I'm going to college. I'm fucking over this. I don't want to do
yep.
this. Obviously, the band is over because of that. Like,
Yep.
there was a whole breakdown that happened. And then unfortunately the young lady lost her life that night, and then we got a
Yes.
big apology. Not that we needed an apology, but we did get an apology from the promoters, like, hey, shit, we didn't realize it was like this. And we're like, because you're not on fucking stage watching this happen.
Yeah, you're
Like,
not
this is,
seeing.
yeah, this
Yeah.
mentality. I mean, it's like 99 2000 was like the bro moment of
Yes.
this of the fucking world, right?
Yep.
And so dumb. I mean, yeah, I could go on. It was bad. I'm glad that Cedric had the courage to say what he did, and we all
Yep.
had his back, of course, and we were all on the same page when it came to that. Well, most of us were on the same page when it came to that stuff. So, while he was saying it, I was like, yeah, let's go. Fuck this. Let's go. Fuck this. This is not like nobody needs to get hurt to watch us play
No.
stupid music. Like, it's the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
And
yeah, I remember that.
I was gonna say, I wasn't sure. Some people, when you talk about stuff from, 20 years ago, they're like, ah, nah, it's a blur. So, but yeah, so I actually watched the interview that you did with Channel V afterwards,
Uh,
and all I could do is sit there and just, because
well, thank you.
I'm a photographer by
Yeah,
trade, so I'm with the band in the front.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
You
absolutely
know.
applaud. I absolutely applaud that. I've watched mosh pits go terribly bad,
Yeah,
terribly
yeah,
quickly. So yeah, I
yeah,
absolutely applaud that, and I wish more bands would sort of, and I guess they sort of are now, speaking up and going stop.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so we've rattled through this in record time. Um,
I'm a fast talker.
I think you're very articulate, and I think you were able to answer everything that I wanted very quickly. So yeah, so thank you for talking to me today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much for
Did you
having me.
bit of